What does creativity mean to you?
Creativity comes from a foundation of curiosity.
It's about being able to think outside the box. It's being able to, challenge the status quo.
You're stuck in the box of what occurs today.
It's a constant journey.
But you have to be ready to invest in it.
There is no one in the world who cannot be creative.
So hello everyone, dear listeners, welcome back to another episode of the Talking Creativity podcast. And Toby and me are back, right Toby? We're back.
I guess so. It feels a little bit weird to have another podcast episode, but I'm also really, really pumped to have more guests to speak to, more inspiration for our listeners. Hopefully they're gonna come back. I don't know where they are right now because we haven't published an episode for a year, I guess, or something. But it's gonna be great.
It's gonna be really great because we have some great podcasts here once again. And I would say let's directly jump in to introducing our lovely guest for this episode. Now, before we start, have you ever thought about why some rooms make you feel full of ideas and others just make you feel tired? Now, today we're looking into the quiet way of our surroundings talking to us. We will explore the psychology of creative spaces, how the places we are in actually shape our brains, and how creative we can be then. Now, our special guest for this talk is joining us all the way from sunny Queensland, Australia. Unfortunately, Toby and me are not there in person, but we are going to talk to Dr. Oliver Baumann. He's a well-known experimental psychologist and a brain scientist. Dr. Baumann's important new research at Bond University looks at how our environment, both natural places and buildings, deeply affect how we think, remember, and feel. And to get these insights, he's actually truly adventurous because his biggest adventure was changing continents to do brain research in real-world places, from the busy city spots to actually also quiet natural sites, which I love. He truly lives by the power of spaces. And we actually asked him, what makes you really creative? He finds his best ideas and clear thinking in Queensland's ocean, air, and rainforests. So actually even more sad that we're not there, Toby. And he likes to write in the morning and think deeply late at night. If he could, he would bring together Jane Goodall for her love of nature and Steve Jobs for his creative designs to talk. So, and we love to bring together Dr. Oliver Baumann and the Talking Creativity podcast today. So welcome, Oliver, to our podcast episode, Talking Creativity. So great to have you here.
Thank you, Bianca. Thank you, Toby. I'm thrilled to be in your podcast. Looking forward to the conversation.
How's the weather at your end? That's the most important question to start with.
Yeah, it's indeed sunny, and it's just starting to get into spring. So 23 daytime. So it's the best time of the year.
Nice.
And what's so different about the air in Queensland that's making you so creative?
It's flavored with.
If you look, even from a physics perspective or chemistry, ocean air has higher amount of negative ions, which could have an effect. But I put it down to the soft fascination that nature provides and cognitive benefits from seeing the rolling waves and seeing the greenery in the rainforest. So that's I think where the creative potential is coming from.
Are you so close to the sea that you can smell the salty air somehow? Is that so close, or is it more distant, your location you're sitting at right now?
It's 3 Ks, how the bird flies, so it's pretty close. So it's probably not close enough to really smell it, but probably close enough to be actually some benefits in terms of air quality.
Nice.
Wow.
So now we all have a
Sounds
beautiful
so
picture in our head about... I've been once to Australia and I really enjoyed it. The most interesting animal actually I met there was the little wombats. You know those kind of little things. Do they also live too close to your area?
Yeah, they're all around the country, and mostly they're hiding away safely somewhere in the bush. But they look a little bit like like little or big guinea pigs, you could say a little bit. I find like a big version of a guinea pig with less hair.
Oh.
Yeah,
I was just Googling it. Yeah, a bit bigger.
Yeah, but I've been there once at a campsite, and they just were like strolling around next to my tent, and they were like sitting around really relaxed and calm, and that's just, I just enjoyed them. And of course it was a big attraction for the little kids to kind of, so cute, I want to cuddle with it.
Yeah, lots of wildlife attractions. Also lots of lizards or water dragons around. So, I mean, that's always also like really great sight that even come into the urban realms. So it's and that's, I think, the great thing in Australia, that also nature is really, there's still plenty of nature around, even in urban areas, which makes it all very livable.
However, you are born and raised in Germany, I guess, right?
Yeah, that's right. So, grown up in Hamburg, and then studied in Oldenburg, and then for my PhD moved down to Bavaria, at Regensburg. But then after that, made my journey via Norway and Scotland into Australia. So.
Do you miss anything about your...
Still, I would say, still miss aspects of Germany apart from family and friends. But I mean, obviously, it's still home. So it's like if I visit Hamburg, so that still feels like that kind of feels home. Everything seems more familiar. So so definitely still thinking about it.
And is it also about the German bread that you miss? Because that's very often people saying that, like, moving out of Germany, they miss the German bread. I don't know if probably you have a German bakery somewhere around. I don't know, but is it that for you as well?
Yeah, bread and cakes, definitely, but it's improved a lot. So over the 18 years that I've been in Australia, I would say there's more good bread around, more good cake around. So it's really noticeable differences. So in that aspect, it's kind of getting all right here now too.
So we're getting there. Sounds good.
Getting there,
Yeah. So now from wombats and bread to creativity.
Thank you for bringing us back, Bianca.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. We could talk for hours, many questions. But maybe let's jump into the topic, because we would like to know from you what exactly creativity means to you, because we actually already touched upon it a little bit. But now let's take a step back first and ask you, what does it really mean to you?
Yeah, I would say it's linking information in new ways, making connections between different concepts, different actions and procedures, and making connections that are not directly obvious. That's essentially what I would say is creativity. So creating something new by making rearrangements, new arrangements of information and actions.
Mm-hmm. Would you say you're a creative person? And if you would say so, have you been always throughout your whole life so creative? Or was there a development noticeable from your end?
So I haven't objectively done a test, but I would say in terms of like, if you look at outputs like writing and creating outputs, then I would say I'm creating material as part of my job and also my hobbies. So I would say that, I am creative, and I would say always have been. So kind of really the joy out of producing things, novel things, open for new topics and new information. So I would say, yes, so creativity is quite important for me to kind of like live a full life, is to be,
And have you also noticed
creative?
Have you also noticed a moment in your life where it was really tough for you to be creative? So any circumstances that hinder your creativity in a sense? I don't know.
Yeah, I would say that I was always, in terms of lifestyle, seeking out environments where in principle I can live out my creativity. So always the workplaces and also private settings, I would say I always made enough room to be creative. But there are those times just, I would say, if there's time pressure, if there are too many tasks, so then when it comes down to just really working from one little task to the next. And sometimes there are those moments where life is like that. Then I would say then that can stifle creativity a bit, where there just is not enough time to really be creative, where it's really just more like survival mode. So I think it's kind of important that those don't last for too long, so that I then again have some time islands where I can again expand and be creative.
Do you really set those islands for yourself, or how do you fight this, when you're blocked with your creativity?
So I really try to make time for them, to looking in my calendar, to have a sense, okay, when there's a next moment where I could block some time for doing some creative work, and that I make sure that those are not too far away, so that I really shield off some time where I can do the creative work, because it's not just a luxury or a bonus, but I would say that for any kind of work, it's important to have those time islands reserved for creative work.
And how can I imagine, do you then just, or maybe you just have an example of what really helps you most? Do you just go in a quiet room for yourself and just think about anything, or with a blank piece of paper, or you go out and take a walk, or is there anything specific you do?
Yeah, going out typically would be my procedure, to go out in nature, walking, sitting with a notepad, so that I can note down ideas that I have not spent my time memorizing. But really being outdoors. And often for deep thinking, I find myself needing to be by myself. I can be creative with other people. It always depends on the time point in the project. But for certain aspects, I really need that quiet control over time and place, and being outdoors, I think that really works for myself.
Talking about outdoors, we would love to talk with you about the psychology of creative spaces. So outdoors might be also a creative space for you, but why is it so crucial to understand the psychology and the psychological impact of spaces on people, and especially, of course, what interests us most, on our personal creativity or team creativity?
Yeah, I would say it's important because, first of all, it's like a human need to varying degrees, because people differ, but there's some need to create, a need for novelty. So I would say to kind of really be healthy in a broader sense, it's important to create environments that allow us to be creative. But then also looking at it from a social perspective, whether we're looking at organizations or at families or communities. So creativity is important to not only maintain positive lifestyles, but also to improve on. So that creativity is really something which allows us to have healthy life, a happy life, productive life. And so again, I would say it's not a luxury. It's really like a necessity to constantly come up with new ways to make things work better, and allow us to have a better life.
Could you take us a little bit more into your work that you have done in the past, and some experiences, how you actually measured what kind of impact creative spaces have on the psychology of people?
Yeah, so we did a variety of approaches. So in real-world environments and virtual environments, essentially bringing people to environments where we systematically vary certain aspects of those environments. So, for instance, we look at views of nature, whether there's a window in a room and what you can see from that window, whether that's, let's say a tree, and some greenery. The advantage of doing that in VR is that on virtual reality, that we can put a headset on and create an environment how we want it to be. So we don't have to find the perfect room or build the perfect room, but we can just virtually create it. And we can then also control certain aspects of the environment that would be hard to control in real world environments. So otherwise you might have people making noises, or there's somebody doing some construction work. So in real environment, there's always some kind of risk for experiments. So, but in virtual places, we can then really study one by one those elements, like how big is the room? What do you see in that room? What is the color of that room? What is the shape of this room? Or what is the nature of an outside environment? And then measure those impacts of the environment with a variety of methods. And we would have used self-reports, so essentially just people asking about how they feel about a place and its effects, but then also measuring objectively their performance. So having them do certain tasks in those environments and see how good or bad they are on those tasks. And then also using other physiological measures like heart rate as a measure of stress and arousal, or EEG to look at brain activity in response to those places. And then putting that all together, that gives us some insights into then how those different elements of different indoor or outdoor environments affect us psychologically, cognitively, and physiologically.
And what are the most striking findings there?
So what we looked in our research, we found effects, significant effects of nature views. So like having a window with a kind of calming view of trees, that we found boosted.
Yes, I have that. Sorry.
Yeah, you're lucky.
I'm just looking out of a window with trees.
And I've been also lucky that in most of my workplaces I had that. And and we found that even in a 10-minute exposure of being in those different rooms, having that view of nature, we saw an increase in that specific study, an increase in the quantity of creative ideas that people were able to come up with. And also subjectively, people reported that they enjoyed that environment much more than not having a window or a window where they couldn't see anything. So in a way, you could say that's not necessarily surprising, but we were able to measure that impact quantitatively and could say even 10 minutes are enough. And then obviously the next step would be, what happens if you're in those environments for hours, days, months, years, and those effects could obviously compound.
That's a nice catch for the people. So if you want to be creative, build a window towards a nice, nature view, trees. But would it also work if I just put a photo up on a blank wall?
Yeah, really good point. Yeah, and even looking at pictures of nature can have effects on mood and cognition. So therefore, that would be a hack. Putting
cheaper
up
option than just building a new window. Yeah. I'm sorry to interrupt you.
Exactly.
Definitely.
A wallpaper, or there are now solutions, LCD or LED windows, artificial, for places where people literally can't have windows. For example, like rooms in hospitals, like where they do radiological examinations, like rooms for MRI scanners, where you often can't have a window. There are solutions here with having virtual monitors essentially on the wall, or skylights that not only have static but could have changes in daylight, which really helps for people to keep their daily cycle of morning, midday, and evening. And that really would be also another way. So having really high fidelity virtual window instead of a real window can really provide measurable benefits.
Nice.
But
please go ahead.
I'm still wondering, what is it that really then makes us feel more creative about this? Is it that, that doesn't make sense because it's not moving? Because I just thought I look outside of the window and I look at the trees. And what is really calming me, at least, is that they are, from the wind, they're moving a little bit. So there is a little bit of movement, and I have a bigger view, so a wider view outside. So I could imagine that this could help me. But can you be a bit more concrete what exactly it is then?
Yeah, so there are two theoretical frameworks to explain that. One is just via relaxation or mood. And that goes back to evolutionary psychology, that having environments where we see greenery are kind of comforting, because thinking back to our hunter-gatherer times, if we would be in a desert, that would be kind of stressful, because we would be under time pressure to find a place where there would be food and water. But if we see green trees and a lake, then we're kind of already at a space where we kind of can stick around, don't have to worry, and then our mind can expand to issues beyond immediate survival. So that's the relaxation and stress reduction aspect. But then there's also the attentional aspects, and there's like quite a bit of research that looks at attentional restoration through nature. And the idea is that nature provides like a soft fascination, is the term, of capturing our attention, but not in a way how we're being captured by a loud sound or a TV screen, but it's kind of, it attracts attention, but in a gentle way, so that then our attentional focus can drift towards looking at the tree, and we get a bit of restoration, relaxation, and then we can go back to our thoughts and creative ideas, and this kind of back and forwards of focus attention and diffused attention that seem to happen quite well in nature settings.
Interesting.
Wow.
Do you also find other effects besides this, like in quantity of creative ideas increases in that environment? Anything else? I mean, of course, another effect is like you're more relaxed, or has it other impacts on us?
Yes, so the relaxation, which is then the positive mood, and so creativity. You need quite a few cognitive and emotional states kind of to be optimal for creativity. So being in a good and relaxed mood typically, again, broadens our mind so that we're not thinking about immediate solutions to survival, but could think more broadly. And there's also quite a bit of research showing that even our semantic space, essentially, so if you look at our mind as a cognitive network, if you're in a kind of stressed or anxious state, we have like a narrow working space that we are kind of working in, so we kind of can't think too creatively. But if we are relaxed, then our network kind of allows to, jump to conclusions beyond immediate states, and we can make then those novel connections that sometimes seem a bit random. So we have to be really quite relaxed and in a good mood to really think beyond the ordinary and day-to-day requirements. So that's the mood effect. But then it's also the attention, which is important for working memory. So we have to keep track of our ideas as well. So it's not good enough to just have ideas, but we also have to keep them in mind, compare them to knowledge and other ideas. And attention is really important to manage that as well. So that's also how kind of environments that are conducive for that are helpful. And so therefore, benefits for attention, benefits for working memory, the increased positive mood, all that works together, that we are being a bit more creative then.
And now we talked about this window view towards nature into kind of, trees and stuff. Besides that, have you found other things that are influencing us humans in a way, like sound, smell, light, color, stuff like that?
Yeah. From our own research, what even a bit more surprising maybe compared to the windows is that we have found effects of room shape. So specifically that round rooms, again in a virtual space, increased the quality of the participants' creative output. So they were coming up with more creative solutions. So the way we measure that, it's like a classic test. It's called the alternative uses test. In that one, participants are asked to come up with novel uses for everyday objects like a brick or a newspaper. And so we had the participants in those different virtual environments, like the classic rectangular room and the round room. And then they had a certain amount of time to come up with as many ideas as they could. And then we were looking at semantic distance as a measure of how creative those solutions are. So how far, because if you say brick and then to build a house, that's a very short semantic distance because bricks are related to houses. But if you then say I use a brick to as a drawing utensil, kind of dip it into paint and start to do some painting. So the words of painting and drawing and brick are semantically not related. So that's the kind of way how we measured it. So that semantic distance of what people came up with relative to, let's say, brick or newspaper, that was more broad in the round rooms. So meaning that, the answers were more creative in an objective way or in an objective measure in the round room. And there are unfortunately not too many real round rooms around. obviously due to feasibility issues and the way how we build our buildings. But obviously there are ways to create those a little bit more different environments. And again, the question of why is that? And it's could be again due to positive mood, because people feel a bit better in round rooms, which could be due to safety. That round things people feel safer around round things. So even if you think about a baby, what would you feel more comfortable giving a baby? Would it be like something like a round squishy ball, or would it be like a metal cube? So most people would think it's the round squishy ball, and there's probably something in our mind that we still feel round things are safe, they're fun, and that translate probably to geometry of rooms as well. So we feel a bit safer, a bit more relaxed in those environments. And it could be also the playful nature, so that unusual rooms that are not associated with our everyday work environments, again, could just stimulate different and new thoughts.
Mm-hmm. Interesting. So you're telling us that round rooms are better for creative performance, basically, right? So if I boil it down and kind of reduce it, of course, as a researcher, you would say, there's this and that. But so this is you found that out. And why do people not build more of those spaces? That's a question I ask myself very often, because a lot of companies are talking about creativity. We need better, more ideas and stuff like that. But why is there this gap between research findings on your end and the implementation of those findings in business life? That's what I'm still struggling with in my head. If it's so concrete, basically, so that you can have round shapes a little bit more in those kind of creative rooms, but a lot of companies just don't do it. Is it just not known about that finding, or is it, what do you think?
Yeah, I think it's a mix of factors, and it's, first of all, it's getting the messages out there. So beyond scientific journals, then they're communicating those findings so that once they reach the right person, that can stimulate some ideas, translate into action. But then I think it's also still that probably creativity as a skill or as a function still also needs a bit more attention. I think that's great that you at Siemens have that creativity lab, because often it's probably could be still falling into that soft skill, so that, we want people to know how to program or do maths or, those hard skills. And then if people are good with other people and creative, that's kind of like a little bit like the cherry on top. But I think, the message is again that, we need creativity beyond thinking about arts and music, but we need creativity in industry as well. We need creativity in administration, because that's where the next innovations will come from, where efficiency comes from, where growth comes from. So I think it's, communicating science and the science of creativity, and then also the science of environmental psychology to kind of then really create awareness, and then hopefully translation into practice, so that to kind of really show that, these are not just felt effects, but these are measured effects, and we can quantify them. And once we can quantify them, then hopefully there's greater buy-in to translate those as well.
Mm-hmm. So good that we speak right now and bring that out.
Exactly.
Nice. So,
any other impacts apart from looking outside the window or having kind of a picture of nature, round rooms, any other aspect?
Yeah, so I alluded to the novelty. So having rooms that are a bit different from the everyday workspace. So like, again, organizations could have rooms that are more suitable for creative endeavors. And there are some examples. I read that Amazon, they built spheres, it's like city gardens and big spheres where then staff can go in and walk around, communicate, have meetings. So kind of, creating some spaces that are different from the everyday space where people write their emails, and give them a space where they can go if they want to think, and then where that also gives the credibility again, so that it's not being seen as something, people just sitting there and not really doing something. We want people to type or program or create presentations, but that it's okay that you can sit somewhere and just look at a tree, and that might be the most productive moment that somebody has in their day. So, and I think that's again also the important message there.
Oof, if I compare the sphere from Amazon in Seattle, which you just related to, because I've been there once, and I really found it fascinating, because it's just, you enter that sphere and it's just, you can always look somewhere and discover something new, basically, because it's not just a very simple, straight cubus or something, but it's kind of new in every sense, basically. And if I compare that with our typical Siemens buildings in Erlangen, Bianca, is it more like
Definitely comparable.
Yeah, it's more like a very structured approach. Yeah.
And I mean, imagine the ways to do it, at a smaller scale as well. So not everybody has to build a gigantic sphere, but it could be just a dedicated small building, or even just some rooms that are generated a bit differently. And I think, that playfulness, that novelty, which again then creates that different mindset, that different cognitive state, that it's not just there from, going from a procedural mindset to that creative mindset, and creating those spaces where people can transition in and think a bit differently.
Yeah. Have you anything else on your mind? Potentially also not just from your own research, but out of your research domain in regards of light, colors, and sound or smell and stuff like that? Because we touched upon the view, the shapes of the room, the novelty of the room and stuff. Anything else to add there?
Yeah, I would say so in terms of colors and light. So research not from our own work, but others has shown that it's kind of lighter colors, like yellow, orange. They're really, again, good for the more broad, divergent creativity, while then kind of more colors like blue or green, they're then more good for the kind of convergent thinking, kind of selecting ideas. So different colors for different aspects of a task could have benefits. And similarly with light, so that a little bit dimmed light is good for the divergent blue sky thinking. But if it comes down to then selecting the best idea, working out the details, then more well-lit rooms are again more beneficial.
And what's the theoretical connection to us humans and how we feel if we see the light color versus the other ones, or the dimmed light and the brighter light? Can you explain that a little bit further, please?
Yes, so it's explanations would then again go to alertness, different levels of alertness, so that very high alertness. I mean, here for creativity, medium levels are probably good, where we are kind of not sleepy, but we are also not in a hyper alert state. So kind of, therefore this kind of stimulated, but still relaxed state. That's kind of the optimal state for that blue sky thinking. While then for that kind of like hyper focus, having that kind of more well lit rooms, that's the idea. So where we need even like a higher level of creativity. So it's equivalent to, how much coffee you have. So kind of, too much coffee would not be good for that very creative, divergent thinking. So like maybe like half a cup, best for that. And then once it comes down to working out the details, then a bit more coffee would give that state to kind of then translate that idea into practice, would be an equivalent of that.
Super interesting. Now I'm still thinking about this measurement a little bit. I'm still still on that point from the beginning of the conversation, because I was asking myself, you mentioned that you also measured the heart rate or the kind of physiological aspects. Could you elaborate a little bit more on that, and how you, or what kind of impact does it have? Does the heart rate go up when I see a tree outside and then I'm more hype? Or I don't know, because you actually said we are more relaxed, so maybe rather the heart rate goes down a little bit and then you're in a more creative space, or how does this correlate?
Exactly, a good question. And so typically with scenes of nature or those round rooms, we found that heart rate goes down. So it's just de-stresses and gets people in a more relaxed, positive mood. And it's measuring things like heart rate. It's just good that we don't, obviously we trust our participants. And if they say, I feel more relaxed, I feel more happy, then we believe them. But it's also great to see that coming down in the heart rate, because sometimes people are, depending on the person, are not that great at actually describing or gauging their own emotions. So looking at heart rate, that's then the objective measure to know how relaxed somebody is relative in two states. And similar to that with EEG, so looking at brain activity, that we can look at different frequency bands, and especially the theta band and the alpha band in brain activity. If they get stronger, that's also again a marker of more relaxed states, state that are associated with more creativity, especially the theta states, which we can also get through meditation. And we found those theta states to get stronger, again, if you compare different environments. We had like a city-urban environment. We had people just being outdoors in the middle of the city compared to like in a green, leafy suburb. And the theta waves were stronger in that leafy suburb environment. And these are the states that are also, again, for coming up with novel ideas. And so, again, using EEG is just some objective marker that we can use in addition to self-reports and cognitive performance to kind of measure the issue from multiple angles, essentially, and get a reading of certain environments and their impacts.
Nice. Have you ever tried to bring all those findings together to build like a prototype of a better room for the future for people to work in, or anything like that? Is that on your mind, or are you still like focusing on the research part, or have you? I mean, you're doing research. I assume that a lot of people I hope a lot of people reach out to you to learn more about your research, to kind of bring that to life at some point. Not now, not tomorrow, but somewhere in the future.
Yeah, I mean, it's a good point. And I think it's that kind of translating the findings into practice. I think it depends on the organization, that we would be working with. What are their, how much resources do they have? What can they change? And I think so therefore it depends on what can be done. But also what's important, another important point I think to talk about is the individual differences. So we are, all on a spectrum in terms of what works best for us. And typically with our research, we look what works for the average person. So since we do statistics, we see what's the average benefit, and which means what works for most people. But then we have people at the extremes. And sometimes the most creative peoples are people on the extreme. So therefore, it's also important to see what works for a given person. And there could be a person, that says like, for me, it's best to not have a window and I want really bright lights, or I want complete darkness, and that's the optimal environment. So I think that's also important, that beyond saying what works on average for most people, then it's also important to see what works for the individual, and kind of getting the literacy there that, giving people enough freedom to create environments that what they think are best for their working environments. That's equally important there as well.
Nice. Please.
Are you also looking into those cultural differences a little bit? Because I was just wondering, because you also have the experience from Germany, where you have also lived, and now in Australia. Do you see some differences there as well?
I mean, it's a really interesting question. It goes in the direction of individual differences. So far with our research, we looked at participants in Australia, but it's a very diverse population, and I guess that's also becoming true across many places around the world, that more and more we have very diverse societies in terms of backgrounds. So it's a good question, but yes, so far we haven't got hard data of any differences. Though I would say that many of the explanations of why certain environments work, with those evolutionary explanations, we would think they are pretty, would be universal across humans, because in terms of our ideas of what environments are most beneficial, having green trees, blue lakes, all those kind of preferences that we even have in terms of, if you think what would what are the houses that people are typically willing to pay more for, often the ones that are kind of from an evolutionary perspective, the ones that are safer or advantages in terms of survival. So I think lots of those, what people consider to be the optimal house, the optimal location, we are actually pretty similar in terms of what we would be choosing there.
Mm-hmm. I would like to come back to one thing you said, if I may, Bianca, or do you want to?
Sure.
You said something in the beginning of the podcast. If you want to be creative, or in order to be creative, there has to be a lot of different cognitive processes, emotional states to fall into place somehow. So I have a picture in mind of different puzzle pieces that all have to be in a right setup, basically, to get into those. Into this mode of really being creative. And then coming back to what you said, I mean, the alert state or something, you call it an alert status or something, right? Mm-hmm. So it's about how relaxed are you? Is there a risk of being too relaxed at some point? I mean, if I go out into the woods somewhere, if I'm there for 20 minutes, am I too relaxed to be creative? Is there a sweet spot somewhere that we have to meet in a way, and especially that is the alertness is basically just one of those measures, one of those puzzle pieces I'm referring to. That brings me to the question: is that the reason why being creative, is so hard for us humans? Because there has to be so many different things perfectly put together in a way, and it's not just giving more relaxation helps to be more creative, but at some point you shoot over the sweet spot and it's not good anymore, right? And for us, it's hard to meet in all those puzzle pieces this sweet spot in a way. I don't know if that makes sense. That's just the picture I have in mind.
Yeah, that makes really sense. And I thought, broadly speaking, creativity is somewhere in that middle place, where we are not too relaxed, not too stressed out. The good thing is that typically the places that are good for creativity also are good for recreation in general. So the people that are good at, the places that are best for mental health and well-being are typically also the ones that are in principle conducive to creativity. But then, as you say, many things have to come together. It's not only the external space, but it's also our mental space. What's the task list for today? What's our to-do list? That also plays a role. So lots of things have to come together to kind of create that environment to be perfect, to get that spark of creativity. And that can be a bit different for each person, can be a bit different for the person from one day to the other, and even depending on the time of day. So therefore it's something it's hard to be very planned about. So like to say, I put everything together and then tomorrow at 10 a.m. gonna have an idea. As we all know, that's not how it works. But there are certain things that are that stack our chances in favor of us and in favor of being creative. So I think, we can do things that are more conducive or less conducive for creativity, but there's still this element of randomness or chance that can't be controlled there as well.
Yeah, that's making our job pretty tough, actually, because we're trying to bring creativity to the people within Siemens and beyond, and also trying to train them on that. And in the end, as you said, right, it's a little bit up to chance. It's still kind of depends on the individual people. We're not all the same. It depends on your mood of the day. It depends on all the other things that happen around you that influences you. So it's in the end a very, 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 very tough thing to kind of really manage creativity in a way, right?
And it's also the tricky thing that trying too hard is counterintuitive there. And I mean, it just reminds me, I've been talking about the theta waves that are so important for creativity. I've been at a science museum, I think it was in Oslo. They had a setup with an EEG system where there was a 2-player game where you had to push a ball like a game of soccer into the goal of the other person. But the trick was, if you were generating stronger theta waves than the other person, the ball would go in the right direction for you. But the trick is, if you want the ball to go there, then it works against you. So you kind of had to kind of relax and kind of give up on the ball actually moving in that direction for the ball moving in that direction. I think that's similar with creativity. Sometimes the moment we walk out of the door and say, oh, I give up. Today was a lost day for creativity. Then all those ideas suddenly come. And so therefore, it's kind of like, not trying too hard is sometimes the way to go about it.
Interesting. That's interesting because the typical environment and setup in a business environment is competition, right? Am I better than the other one? And that is potentially triggering you to try it even harder.
And also, I mean, what we're also doing, we set strict meetings. We set up meetings where we brainstorm or something, and those ideas have to come, or you have to be creative within that time frame. Only this 1 hour, and within this 1 hour, you have to have the best idea ever. But often it doesn't work then because you're a lot more under pressure, maybe because maybe you're trying too hard, or I don't know. That's also counterintuitive, isn't it?
Yeah, and it's and with brainstorming specifically, the research is actually often not too much in favor of it. So it doesn't work for everyone. So some need that moment for themselves to come up with ideas. But it's then also the communication during brainstorming meetings where also research have shown that often it's like 1, 2, 3 people who kind of dominate most of the communication, and the others are kind of often delegated to just listening and might have the best idea, but never really have the airtime to express it. So I think, like, again, thinking about different formats in terms of being creative, and rather than the ones that have been used for decades, I think that's also a good strategy there.
Coming from the strategy perspective, it's not a strategy, but a little tip, trick, whatever, life hack, how you want to call it. If you enter a room, let's assume there's a room, right? What is the smallest change you can do in that room? Or what would you recommend to a person out there? Potentially a lot of 100 people are listening right now, this podcast, and they are asking themselves, what is the smallest change of a room we could do to have the highest, that's a very business perspective, the highest increase in creativity? What is that in your mind about this, Christian? Yeah,
I would say the lighting of the room would be the first thing to look at, because many places just have the standard fluoros on the ceiling still, and but it's kind of allowing employees to bring in, or encourage them to bring in their own lamps and lights, and which allows them to control the light color and the amount of light in the room and moderate that throughout the day. So I would say that's where there's the most bang for the buck, is just working with different lighting solutions in the office.
So put the lights off and bring some candles. Would that work?
Yeah. I mean, candles not sure with occupational health and safety, but there may be kind of electric candles could be an option.
Yeah. Interesting.
Sure. Oh, good to know. Should we have a mini challenge for the end of our conversation?
That sounds exciting.
Yeah, because now let's try to be a little creative all together, or maybe just you, Oliver. Because we normally have a little creativity challenge for our podcasts, and this one is, I think it's very short and simple. You're in, Oliver?
Sure.
Okay, let's try it. So I'm gonna give you 2 different scenarios. And for each, now you should tell us what's the very first thought or feeling or any creative impulse that comes up to your mind.
Mm-hmm.
Just a few words.
Okay.
So simple and easy. Okay?
Sure. Okay, let's go.
So first scenario, Toby, you can then say the second one. So first scenario, you're in a very silent, stark white, empty room with no windows. What comes to your mind first?
Going to bed, sleeping, having a nap. So that's kind of what comes to mind.
Great.
Would you change something in that setup?
Yeah.
And if yes, what would you change? What is like
so if I'm actually
disturbing you the most?
So I think it's like, kind of like having the window, seeing what's happening outdoors. So that would be the first impulse to kind of because it's, I think for the orientation to kind of have the connection with the world outside, but then again, also have that outlet to sometimes just look to the window and, relax the mind, even just for a few seconds and then go back to the task. I think that's kind of, what would be most crucial for me there.
Yeah, my first impression of that would be kind of this like a prison, or in German you would say Gummizelle. That's for like people that go crazy. They are kind of locked down in a room with a lot of like safe environment with like soft walls and stuff to not hurt themselves. But that is in my mind always very, very bright light and white.
Also bright light. Yeah, no, I think I understood it as dark.
Oh, I'm sorry. Was it dark?
Yeah.
No. It was a white.
Anyways.
White empty room, silent empty room.
That's the beauty. Everybody may think something else. Sorry, Bianca.
Yeah, I directly had a really cold feeling. So now also when
freezing
about how you feel about, I would freeze. I actually felt like I had to put on another cardigan or so. I had just a kind of cold feeling.
Oh yeah, if it's bright light, then I would also. Then definitely I wouldn't want to sleep in that. So that's reminds me then also more like a holding cell or interrogation room. So
yeah.
But I like it because we see here that just having a little like explanation of what the environment looks like, we can close our eyes and imagine ourselves being there, and then right away we have a feeling, and that's exactly what you're researching, right? What is the environment doing with us cognitively, emotionally, and stuff? Second scenario, so just let it sink in and tell us what comes up in your mind and feeling and stuff. You're standing in a bustling, vibrant market with a mix of sounds, smells, and colors.
So I would say, it's kind of curious exploration. So it's like an environment where I want to walk around, look at things, learn things, figure things out. So that's kind of what comes to mind.
Instantly, I get hungry when I read this, because for me, markets are always about, I just love food and experiencing different kinds of food and exploring new stuff. That's what comes up in my mind.
Now, in my mind, I was actually directly had music, a lot of music in my mind, loud music, good music, people somehow moving. So not just standing there on the market, but rather being, in constant movement, talking to each other. So I had this picture in mind. So it was very music heavy, to be honest, in my head.
That's a nice showcase of the difference of us humans, because you're making music yourself. So it's always about what is in the front of our head, what is close to our heart. And that's what we connect with, things that we experience in rooms and spaces. But that brings me back to how hard it is actually to find a common ground for everybody, right? Because Oliver, you said, I mean, you're researching the average human, right? And that's in the end, as you said, sometimes the very extreme humans that are not average are potentially the most creative ones. And how do we cater that different need in the society, in organizations, in teams, especially if it comes to creativity, which makes it really, really a tough game. I mean, looking at the time, if there's nothing else from you two to add here, then we can come to one of our last questions. And especially for our listeners, it's super relevant to take something out of this time they spent with you, Oliver, listening to your very, very, what I find really, really super interesting research. But what are the one or two things that you would tell them and say, hey, that's something, keep that in mind? Or let's boil it down to one thing. What is the one most important thing out of your research, out of your experience?
Always the toughest thing to cut it down.
Yeah, I would say to be mindful about the environment that we live and work in, and kind of just being mindful of it. And I think that can be enough to then have the next step, think about changes and improvements.
I'm already more mindful, I think, because now I appreciate even more that I have this window right in front of me while working with the trees. Thank you, Oliver.
Thank you.
It was really great. We really learned a lot. Looking forward to hearing more from you. And I think also another outcome we should consider, what was important, what you said, is we should be a little bit more vocal about creativity, about how we feel, what helps to be more creative. So I'm very happy that you're also on the same page here.
Yeah. Thanks for having me. And it was great fun and good conversation with both of you. So my pleasure.
Thank you, and goodbye, folks out there. See you next episode. Bye-bye.